Hi, and welcome to Complete and Cast, the official podcast of Complete and Box Video Games. I'm your host, Spencer, and today, in episode 43, and video game review number 17. Parker, can you believe it? 17 of
Wait,
these.
you didn't even... They were on the edge of their seat whether I was here again. They were like, maybe it'll be somebody new.
I mean, assuming they can't read, they wouldn't have read
Right.
Guest Parker, and they'd be like,
Damn.
but I wish I could read!
Oh.
It's all the
Why do you think I listen to podcasts and don't read them?
It's like all the 5-year-olds like my son that would just find this and would be listening 29 seconds in.
If we could get a 5-year-old audience, that'd be so amazing. A billion
Dude,
views.
if we could get
billion views.
If we could get the 5-year-old audience, I would quit my other job
Absolutely.
and just do that.
I'd quit all
Dude,
jobs.
So look up, for all y'all out there who don't have 5-year-olds, look up something called Choo Choo TV. C-H-U-C-H-U. You can look it up on YouTube or you can Google it. There's plenty of articles about this now. These videos are like very quickly made in like Russia or whatever. They're like
low budget CG animation.
And they have
like it's like Flash animation. It's basically like it's like Newgrounds level of animation.
And they have billions of views. I'm not millions.
Right.
Like you could like go look up a Justin Bieber video.
The one was like 2013 or 2014, and it has 1.5 billion views. And it's an hour long. It's an hour long. I'm under the impression that you have to at least have watched like half a video for it to count as a view. Maybe a quarter. It's not just like clicking on it.
Yeah.
Like you have to have watched some of it. Otherwise, like you could just set up a thing that just clicks on a video, right, or something. But like I think it has to like literally be open and active for like a some amount of time.
That's why when we put up videos on YouTube, no, we don't monetize it, don't worry. So we appreciate your views and listening more than 2 minutes in. Thank you to all the 5-year-olds out there for, but anyway, 1.5 billion views. You gotta watch this. I know it. Any parent out there probably knows it. And you like no one tells you like when you become a parent, it's like, what do I need to know?
No
like
one
the other
tells
parents,
the kids.
the other
Somehow
parents
they
aren't
find
like
this stuff.
Choo Choo TV, but they just find it.
Like literally, Ferris is not
the algorithms on YouTube are so well built for these that they know what to find on. Like they'll just click on something and they'll click on something, and within 3 or 4 clicks, because they're kids and they're just clicking, it's Choo Choo TV. That's the 5 degrees of Kevin Bacon or whatever. It's of Choo Choo TV. Like find any go look up some black metal video, and within 5 clicks you could be on Choo Choo TV within the right clicks. Okay, so anyway,
crazy.
Episode 43, Game 17, Choo Choo TV. Wait, no.
Choo Choo TV, the game.
Ooh, now that's a game I would
we're
play.
Reviewing Baldi's.
Yes!
Baldi's Basics.
Got okay, maybe Baldi's next time. Sweep, by the way. Okay, so we're talking about South Park, The Fractured
Butthole.
Get it? Oh, we had to do it. We had to do it at least once. So we played it on the PS4. Now, really quickly, just to go into boring stuff for a second, we base our scores on 6 different things. We have an individual score for each one. Story, gameplay, graphics / atmosphere, sound, fun factor, and replayability. We do it out of 10. We can have increments of 0.25 because that's how Game Informer did it, and I like it. You know, old school game magazines that would give it like out of 5, and it would just be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like, just get out of here, right?
Crazy.
Like that's nuts.
Too hard.
Even GamePro was like 4.5, 5.
One score.
Yeah,
Gee.
yeah, and it's like what's a 3?
I mean, at that point, what's a 3? Like 3. In my mind, if that's their scale, then 3 is like a good game.
Yeah.
3 would be most games. Like a bell curve is there for a reason. Most everything is in the middle of the bell curve. 3. You're going to have really bad games and really good games, but they're going to be very small amounts.
I bet, dude, we should, once we get to 20 of these, we should do a bell curve and actually literally see. It would just be Resident Evil 6 on one side, and whatever, like Doom 2016 on the other side.
Or Life is Strange. I forget what we
haven't played
dumb.
we haven't played enough really bad games to just be like 2. Everything always ends up being like 7.4. So anyway, we give rankings on all 6 of those, and then we add them up and we do divide times 6 because I went to school for math, and that's how you take an average, Parker. Keep that in mind. Okay,
I just use Excel. I type in equals average parenthesis highlight. End parenthesis.
That's way less complicated than my way. My way is way more
alright,
complicated.
yeah, sounds good.
So anyway, we're talking South Park, The Fractured Butthole, get it?
Yep.
On the PS4. Now, my question for you first, Parker, is did you play Stick of Truth? Which
yes,
is
I did. I did play through Stick of Truth, kind of randomly because I was playing for other frequent podcast guest George.
That's
he
right.
He had his PS4 at the store, and I was in helping in the back. And George wanted to platinum the game, but he had already played it a bunch, and so he was just like made an offhand comment like, "Hey, if you're bored, you can try to help me platinum South Park on my system." And so I was just like, "Sure." So I just played through it just to try to platinum it, and it had a really like I'll say like just quick thing. It was a good game. I enjoyed it. It was a little bit like, I mean, this is just South Park in general. Like, I think Matt and Trey are like amazing comedy writers, but there's like a side of them that's like an intensely like kind of like extra double triple layers of comedy thick, where it's like if you think about it a little bit more or whatever, it's like, wow, these guys are really good at comedy writing. And then there's also like the basest, lowest common denominator stuff, and like some of it can get like a little bit too much for me, like when like in Stick of Truth, which like they do a lot of recurring areas, but like in the first one there was a lot of like areas like in and around the like Planned Parenthood place, and so it was just like all about like abortions. It was just like got a little too intense for me, like when they were trying to be like super gross out.
Yeah.
And that's just South Park in general. That's not the game. That's just straight up South Park. Like that's their MO, is to try to like shock, like as well as like have a good like moral. And so like there was parts of Stick of Truth that were like a little bit, I was like, oh my gosh, are you serious?
So South Park: The Stick of Truth, if it even though it's an older game now, was the perfect cataclysm of how the game industry was getting at the time, because a video game was made based off of a show that famously is made very quickly and very cheaply. It's very famous for that. They can make them in less than a week, and they do that.
Yeah.
That it was, not only was it being made by THQ originally, who went under eventually, but got picked up then by Ubisoft and had all this like drama and all this stuff, to the point where, and I forget the exact number, but Ubisoft came out and said, we need to sell X number to really be like in the black. The black's the good, for this. And it was like
that much development.
It was like a large number. It wasn't Call of Duty numbers at the time, but it was like, you really need to sell 1 million copies to get in the black for a game that that 15 years ago they were making the show out of cardboard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
that's weird.
It was weird, and it's a good looking again. We'll get off the stick.
Plus, like I imagine a lot of them, like a lot of those assets, probably are like, because at this point it's all digital.
Yeah,
like they're not cutting out pieces of paper anymore.
It was weird.
And so it's like I imagine a lot of those. Now, obviously, it's going to be different engines, but I feel like a lot of those just like art assets would be easily usable.
It was weird when they were talking about how much it was being delayed, and to be frank, it was weird how long Fractured was delayed as well, because it was delayed a couple times, and you're like, I don't get it. Like,
although I will say, if it was the fact of them trying to get it right, I think kind of a spoiler alert, like not like to go crazy, but like if the point was to get it right, like they did get it right both times. Like it could very easily have become like a bad Simpsons game, but it was like one of the good Simpsons games.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like the stuff, the polish was there, the things that were there were good, and everything worked the way you expected them to, and you weren't like annoyed at like whatever, because there was like a lot of UI in the game, like a lot of menus, and it really wasn't annoying. Like, sometimes that could be like a nightmare if you like don't design a game properly and it's like mostly menus. Like that could break a game. And both games like are great and like have that polish. So if they took extra time in order to do that, they did succeed, and it wasn't like other ones that get caught in development hell and then are just never good. Like they like came out and were good. So I can't really fault him if that was the intent to try to get it right or whatever.
Yeah, no,
but it still does make you confused when you consider how little budget it looks. It looks low budget because it's supposed to look like the low budget show.
Yes.
So it's like, and they succeed. So you're like, why is this a high budget game?
Why is this a $60 game? Anyway, but it is worth that. So let's talk about story real quick now. To bring Stick of Truth down to its basis of stuff, because this is a review of Fractured and not Stick of Truth. Right. Stick of Truth is heavily based off of the episode where they all are kind of Lord of the Rings characters, and they go out on a adventure and blah blah blah. So it's the kids at their best. They're third or fourth graders, I forget what they are now, pretending that they have superpowers, and it shows to you
not superpowers, fantasy
powers. Sorry,
they're like elves, and it gets all like everybody has their own factions, and it's all just like a whole thing, and it's great.
It's presented to you as if like that's what's happening, as if you're a kid and all that. So on its basis, Fractured is that, but with superheroes, which is very, very, very heavily based off of I think it was a trilogy of episodes, Coon and Friends, where it just has all the different superheroes. Now, we're not going to go crazy on story here because, I guess a little bit of it is you want to try it yourself, but it's also like pretty basic. Yeah, the story's basic, but also it's like not like, because it's an RPG, there's like a lot of like side things to do and stuff, and so like story is pretty expansive in that regard. Like there's a general story, but then there's like all these side stories, so it's just like kind of gets a little bit like if somebody was just like, oh, tell me the story of Final Fantasy VII, it's like, yeah, there's a story, but there's so much other stuff that it's like, what do you include or not include, So, just to basically start it off, you are the new kid, as you were in Stick of Truth. You move into town, and I forget where did it start from there again. It's been a couple weeks since I played that.
Right. So you start out as the new kid, and you're like whatever, like immediately all the kids are talking about like superhero stuff, like after school it like immediately goes to whatever, and like there's this, they set up a weird subplot with like your parents are weird, and like they say weird stuff like about like when they don't think you're paying attention, like where you're like, we came here to try to get away from it, but like they keep following us, and you're just like, ooh, it's like weird shadowy like kind of thing, and then it ties right into like the idea of like a superhero origin story and all this stuff. So but yeah, you basically like join a team, and then as time goes on, like you join Cartman's team, and then as time goes on, you find out that there's like another team, and it's very much Marvel DC, like that's the whole like premise.
In fact, they mentioned that several times.
Constantly. And like and the other thing is like very, very like it doesn't, not like breaking the fourth wall, but like they're very like, even though they're playing as superheroes, they're still like, Cartman's still referencing like movies.
Yeah, he wants to make
Netflix
like
series
the Coon and Friends cinematic universe and stuff, and so it's like that.
They're referencing the cinematic universe of the thing, but they are pretending to be superheroes. They're not pretending to be actors playing superheroes. So it's just like a kind of funny whole mix of like concepts. And of course, like, I mean, obviously you could go to any movie theater at any time, and there's probably at least one superhero movie playing, especially in the summer. So like, it is like very, very relevant right now, because it's like all that's in the movies is like all the blockbusters are superhero related. So in that regard, it's like super, super relevant, like, and in that way fun, like, which is kind of cool. Like, even though it took, like, it's funny that like if this game took a little bit of extra time to come out, like, yeah, there was like, they probably were like, oh, superheroes are real big, let's make this game about superheroes. And I mean, and it's based on the episodes, which were also like, hey, superheroes are big right now. And like,
it's
even though
big.
there was development hell to get it out, it's still like super relevant.
Yeah.
When like they're only getting more popular, like as time goes on. Like you don't know, maybe they'll reach a like point, a breaking point, and then it'll be like, I don't care about superheroes anymore. Kind of the way that happened with like zombies when that resurged. It was like, oh my gosh, everything's zombie. And then all of a sudden it was like, people don't even watch Walking Dead anymore. And they're like, I can't be bothered. So it's like, there's this whole thing like it made it out and got out before the wave ended, which would have been really sad. Like if like the excitement ended. But yeah, so the story's just all over South Park fun nonsense, and like they like just like Stick of Truth. They just pull in like every character, every side character.
Yeah, it would
just
be
like whatever.
It would be silly to mention like everybody you meet,
right.
like.
But it's fun. They pull from the show so much that it makes it really, really fun.
I will say in a positive point, they do it pretty well in that like you don't know everyone right away. Like it's just Cartman at first, and then it's like, oh, here's Kyle. Here's Stan.
Slowly introduce, and then they introduce the Then all of a sudden they introduce the other like team, like the rival team. So then it's like, oh wow, and so that that was cool. Like the way they present it was good, and then of course. Just like in South Park, like the story that goes off the rails. Once they've introduced everybody, then all of a sudden it's just like, Cartman's whatever is like the hand person character comes back where he pretends to be.
I forget the guy's name. The one who was Jennifer Lopez in the one episode.
Yeah. So he's like Mitch. Something.
Oh, Mitch Connor.
Yeah,
Mitch Cannon.
Yeah, so like he that guy, like that character comes out, and that character's always really fun, like on the show, because it's like, Cartman, stop! I know you're doing it, and it's like, I'm not doing it.
Okay.
I don't know what's happening.
So we got through the major part of that. Let's talk about at this point. This story gets insanity near the end.
Yeah.
So so like Mitch is like constantly like, you only see his hand. And he's like, Nicky, you gotta come here. I'm gonna, whatever. And then like every time
you gotta listen to him. He's crazy.
And every time Kyle's like, no, just like normal.
Right.
But then you get near the end. You get to Mephisto's lab where all that crazy stuff happens. You end up, I even forget how it happens. You end up fighting Kyle's cousin, who you think is the final boss of the game. And like, I didn't really like this part. He ends up being this like huge, crazy,
he
like
turns
blob.
like Akira style. Like he's like. Gets all blown up, like, and it's like
pretty nasty.
Crazy.
I didn't like that. But afterwards, you go into this like really crazy like time jump thing,
right?
Where you end up being back at the very beginning. Yeah, I believe it's the very beginning of actually Stick of Truth.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So like the very beginning of Stick of Truth is awesome because like literally the beginning's like, Logan, come here. Yeah. It's like a war going on. You're like, what? And like you're doing that, but you're like. Fighting as the superhero self versus your past elven self or, whatever kind of thing. And it's really cool, but it was very confusing. Purposely. Like, clearly whenever you install, like, any sort of time travel kind of thing, you're either try to do it completely serious and it goes off the rails, or like you're tongue in cheek, like, well, this is crazy. You know, there's 7 of us now, kind of thing. And I gotta be honest, I didn't really understand a lot of the stuff going on at the end, but I don't know if you were supposed to. It was just kind of It was kind of wacky, but I guess we should mention the main character's superpower is his flatulence, and
just like the last one.
He would be able to use that to like reverse time and go forward and stuff like that. So that ends up being a key plot point with that as well. But after you go through all this Mitch Connor stuff and all that kind of stuff, you get just it gets really crazy. And if I remember correctly, how did it exactly end? Because it was all bizarre at the end.
So like the whole thing is like you keep having this origin story that you keep coming back to with Cartman, and it involves you having seen your parents have sex, and like that's how it always ends. And there's all sorts of different stuff, and you can use it to switch around your powers and all this stuff, but. It then gets revealed that the reason Mitch is traumatized, Mitch Connor, and wants all this stuff is because he witnessed his parents having sex or whatever, and it's like, so then like Cartman and Mitch fight, and like they both die, and then because there's the time travel thing, so you see the alternate future where like all the parents are just like in the streets like having parties, and it's just crazy debauchery, and like because Mitch Connor wants to make it Christmas every single day, and it's just like whatever. So you had to go back and like.
So nobody's working and everything's crazy.
Exactly.
That's actually the hardest part in the game. That I forget what they call them, the Happy Forest Friends or whatever.
Right.
That battle is brutal, as it should be.
It's rough. Yeah, it's definitely rough. Yeah. So you basically like having like. Mitch's Cartman's other hand is Mitch's mom, and it's like, I'm so sorry, and then like they fight, and it's like his two hands fighting, they both die, and it's South Park, so it's crazy, but like because of that, then they like the townspeople are like, oh, we gotta like they come to, and they're like, oh, we have to stop the like there was a whole subplot too of like people sniffing cat urine.
Also straight out of South Park.
Yes, and so like there's that whole subplot, and so that people like suddenly are like, oh wow, I realized what we did is wrong, and so they start cleaning everything up, and like you go home and like you like your parents are alive then.
Dude, it's just the last hour of the game is like intense. There's so much to remember that happens. Like it's just,
exactly.
It's crazy.
It just definitely goes off the rails once they introduce time travel. But yeah, basically you have an end where things like work out or whatever, and like you basically get like an opportunity to like not have witnessed your parents have sex, and so that your origin story doesn't happen. But like it's up to you to make that choice or whatever, like Professor Chaos, whatever. So that's like kind of wraps it up like into a bow, but yeah, it's definitely like, I mean, just like Stick of Truth, it's kind of like hilariously like over the top and all over the place, and it's great. But again, like it's well done. Like you definitely like are there the whole time. You're not just like, what the hell is that? Like you're. Like there's a lot going on, but like you kind of follow it as it's happening. It's
and I'm going to also include, without going into details at all, because there's just so much into the story, all of the just side stuff you can find, like all the different, like just different places you can go and be like, oh, I remember that, or that's cute, or just like going through people's houses and like meeting them and talking to them like, hey kid, come here, you want to help me find this anime around town and stuff like that, and it's just like, it's just good.
There's a lot of like, I mean, that's the thing. Like, same with Stick of Truth. Like I feel like the hardest part about making this game was like the number of different items that are available to find.
Oh, it's crazy.
And like each one of them has like descriptions.
We'll talk about that in gameplay, but overall the story I liked it. I thought that the ending got, like, I know they did it on purpose, but got a little bit too crazy for me, where at the end I was like, what just happened? Like, it just went a little bit off the rails for me, but overall I still had a really good time with it. I liked all the hidden stuff, and there was just so much for me. So, I'm going to say, I was sitting here thinking between 7 and 7.5, so I'm just going to go in the middle and say 7.25. I thought it was pretty enjoyable overall.
Yeah, I'm going to say 8, because I love, like, I generally like South Park as a show. Like, I think there's some misses, but I think overall I enjoy the majority of episodes that I see. Especially, like, as they got, like, later, like, they got better, for sure. Like, it doesn't suffer the same way that like Simpsons or Family Guy or whatever, where it's like early episodes are like king, like this one kind of got stronger, like those guys like got better at what they did, and it shows here. Like the story is like
clearly not
complicated, but
really,
also like it's got a lot to it, and it's really fun, and there's a lot of cool moments in it that you're like actually like excited about, which is weird for like a silly like South Park game. Like you don't expect to be like into it like storyline wise. You just kind of like but like it's like, oh, this is awesome. Like I'm excited to see what happens. So
heading over
I say 8.
Heading over, we have 7.25 and 8. Heading over to gameplay. South Park's main gameplay is it's an RPG.
Right.
In fact, it's a tactical I guess you could say grid-based RPG.
Yeah.
Essentially, you start on one side of the screen for the most part, and your enemy starts on the other side, depending on your speed.
Yeah, situationally, I mean, there is
definitely different ones.
Generally, that happens. But yeah, a lot of times, like with the boss battles, especially, like weird setups happen. Where you're surrounded, or the grid's really long, and you can keep walking down a hallway. So, like, they really play with that mechanic a lot, which was really cool.
And depending on, your current stats or what class you are, you can move differently, and your attacks do differently. Everyone has, I believe, 3 different attacks, and you can always kind of change it. So there's like, the almost unlimited ability to kind of, like, change stuff around. Especially when you get to the point where later you can have 3 classes, and you can have a unique attack from each class.
Right.
Like... You can really sit down and think about it like, okay, I have this one attack that will always hit as far in front of me as I can go, so as long as someone, even if they're 10 spaces away, I'll hit them.
Right.
But this other attack goes on like an X pattern, and that's like, why would I have both kind of thing? Mm-hmm. So it's really cool. There's a lot of different characters. Again, we're not even going to name them. There's so many classes.
The other cool thing, so the first Stick of Truth, you could have one partner, and... Generally, you probably ended up like picking a partner that you like were familiar with their move, or you enjoyed like their super move or something, and then you just like stuck with them for the whole game. Like maybe they introduced another character down the line that you're like, oh, that's a cool move, and you switch to that. But generally, you just like stuck with one character. Like I played with like Jimmy. He was like a bard, and he could like heal you or cause the enemies to miss. And so I just like spammed that move. Either case, depending on whether I needed heals or needed to like not be like have the enemy miss, and then when Professor Chaos like showed up, like I switched to him because his power was a little bit more powerful. But then that was it, and I just like it was like something you picked and then just forgot about and just got used to like the moves you did. This game is like a million times more strategy. Like. Obviously, once you get into a groove and you figure out what works for you, I mean, it'll reach that. But the point is, like, you don't have to do that. Like, you could, like, constantly be switching it up and having a good time with it. And you get 3 teammates this time, and they all have different powers. So it's like, it really opens it up to like, wow, I can really like manipulate this. I mean, this game.
And as you mentioned, there's a lot of different like types of battles. Like sometimes there's like just survive. Sometimes there's one really hard enemy. Sometimes it's excuse me. There's you have to defeat a certain amount of enemies. So you really want someone who can just attack every space on the screen.
Yes, and like has a long stamina. So like isn't gonna get glass cannon where they're like. Real powerful.
So it's cool. I mean, they do 2 things great with that. The first is they have certain battles where you have to use certain characters, and it makes sense for the story. Like, I'm fighting Kyle's mom. Kyle has to be in the party. Got it. So at least you get to see. Oh, this is what he does.
Right.
And the second, like I said, is that there's so many like different like things. Like if you fight one where it's like. Wow, I need brute strength. I can't use Kyle now, kind of thing. It really gets you to switch it around. So the strategy is great. Like, I don't like strategy RPGs. Like, I look at, like, someone playing Final Fantasy Tactics, and I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, I appreciate it, but it's not for me. Like, Fire Emblem, Final Fantasy Tactics, I'm like, oh my goodness, come on. But like I said,
it's definitely a lot more stripped down than
it is. It is
because it isn't a giant battlefield. It's a pretty small battlefield.
It's usually like maybe 4 or 5, maybe even 3 like grids high, maybe 6 or 7 wide. It's nothing crazy, but
I think the first game was 3. I think this one's like 5. So there's a little bit more movement.
It's no Fire Emblem or FF Tactics in terms of like being like crazy like that, but it still gives you enough in that you can be like, wow, how do I go about this fight? So it's stripped down enough for pretty much anyone to be like, okay, I'm getting it kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, I can't say enough about how just nice that is and how varied, and just when you think like, another one of these, like then you fight a different type of battle. So it's really cool and varied. The other thing I really like about this game is just exploring the city. I will say that I'm biased as a fan of South Park. I could definitely understand somebody just being like, let me try this game. I don't really know all these in-jokes and stuff.
Yeah.
They would not...
They might not be compelled to explore too much, but I think like the the fact that there's so many like little things to find that even if you weren't getting it from a inside joke point of view, a lot of the things are just like inherently funny and like they kind of set it up in and of itself in the game, so you could still probably like have a good time with it without.
But yeah, there's I feel like a very very close to perfect amount of stuff to do where it's not too much to the point where you're like, dude, come on.
Right.
Like there's always games and we talked about this before, have to put like one thing in where it's like beat the game 10 times,
right?
Or like,
or they just
collect
have,
all the I feel like
hard.
Batman is perfect except for the Riddler things. There's too many Riddler things, like half it, and it'd be like, okay, 50, great, but then it's like 150. It's like, dude, come on, you know what I mean? But like the only thing that they have that's like high in value is these. You essentially make friends on Coonstagram, which is obviously Instagram.
Yes, and in the first game it was all about Facebook. It was all like based off of that. This one it's based off Instagram.
But it's varied enough that like sometimes you just walk up to a person and they say, "Sure, I'll take a picture with you, kid." And so, sometimes they're like, "Give me this item." Sometimes they're like, "Find me these 10 animes around South Park and then I'll do it."
Yeah.
The craziest one, and I just had to look this one up because I was like, dude, whatever, is when you go into Raisins, which is essentially Hooters, their version of it, and like every girl in there is like, I only take pictures with hero classes. I only take pictures with whatever classes. And like I had to like write down like which ones I did, because like early on I just happened to be hero class and it was like, oh, I'll take a picture with you, sweetie. But then I would come in and be like, oh wait, I already took this picture. So it's really cool. I will say there's one minor part with that. I ended up getting 99 out of 100. Because the City Wok guy, I forget his actual name, but the owner of City Wok, wants you to pay him like $50,000, and the money that you get in this game is like cents.
Yes.
So like 50,000 is like grinding for like the longest time, and I'm not about that. Like
now, I will say like I did play the DLC, and in one of the DLCs, not actually, I played the story one. There's a story one, and there's a boss battle thing where they like set up like scenarios for you to fight, kind of like VR missions or something like that idea, like Metal Gear VR missions. It's just like mini little things, and one of the prizes is his like whatever.
That's cool. That's cool.
So there's a way to get it without actually having to grind for it, like if you play the DLC. But otherwise, yeah. And I will say, though, the one nice thing about that is that there is no trophy based on getting all the friends.
Yeah.
It's just like
I just wanted to do
if you want
it.
But, like, luckily there's no, like, real crazy incentive to get it other than just, like, having the number on the screen. So you don't feel too bad if you don't get it, because it's kind of like whatever. Versus if there was, like, a trophy for it, it would be like, come on, are you serious? Like, that would be annoying.
So, yeah, there's just so many things to do. I'm not going to, go crazy into this. I really liked the variance of stuff. I felt like I played it for a good amount of hours, but also at the same time, I felt like I wasn't like, oh, dude. Like, that's what happened with, like, how many games have we done where I was like, I wanted to do everything. Like I look at, like, a Darksiders 2, where, like, I literally looked at the list.
Or even Batman, like you mentioned. Like Batman, you were like, I really like this game, and you start getting the Riddler trophies, and you're like, I'm burned out, I can't do it.
Yeah,
like,
but it had the perfect amount where you're like, yeah, let's do it. And you get enough of the Coonstagram friends, like, naturally through the game, that, like, even if you don't go crazy by the end, you have, like, 50, 60 of them, and you're like, oh. But, like, if I finished the game proper and was like, you need 80 more, I'd be like, dude, come on. You know what I mean? Like, please. So, yeah, overall, I really, really like the gameplay. I was sitting here in my head thinking between 8.5, and 9, so I'm going to do the same thing I always do and split down the middle at 8.75.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to go 8. You know what? I'm going to go 7.5 on the gameplay. I really liked the majority of the gameplay. My only downside was, because I'm not a tactics person, once I found a setup that worked for me, I definitely, like, just stuck with it. And, like, I will say there was, like, a couple of powers that were a little bit OP, which, like, granted, obviously, it would be crazy for them to, like, really balance every single power perfectly. But, like, once I found those OP powers, it was hard to not just spam them to get through, like, everything. And, like, they were pretty OP. Like, when you figured out a combination of things, it was pretty much like, okay, never mind. Like, this is ridiculous. I will say, like, I can't hold this against them too much, but because it was fun. But I did play the story DLC, which involved going to like, it was a whole separate area. You go to the Casa Bonita. It's like a medieval times type idea, but it's like this Mexican restaurant with like cliff diving and all this stuff. But it's like this whole thing. It's like made up like to look like so it like made to look like a whole thing. Like it's like all like there's big cliff and a waterfall and it's all this stuff, and there's like a fun destination place, and you go there for a party and you meet up with Kenny's character. And you
Mysterio.
Yeah. And you get they unlock a class which is Necromancer, and it's so OP. But I will say the DLC is specifically pretty hard. Like the DLC the battles are like 10 times harder than the regular story battles. And so they basically like opened up this class to be like, now you can kind of fight these battles. And so like I played the DLC like I got like maybe a quarter way through the game. I was like, I really like this. And I was like, oh yeah, I'll get the DLC. And like the DLC is just like you could slot it in anywhere. Like it has nothing to do with the story. It's just like a side mission. So I was like, oh cool, I'll just do that. Like I just felt like trying something else one day, and I played through the DLC, and it didn't take long. It was, you know, maybe like 3-4 hours of content, which was nice for like I forget if it was like $5 or $10. It was pretty cheap, and like I played through it like in a couple hours, and so that was nice. But it unlocked that Necromancer class in the rest of the game, and it was just like, well, never mind. Like everybody just got wrecked, and it was just like, okay, cool, thanks for playing. So that was a little bit like like. Whatever, like, but I will say, like, even if I didn't play the DLC, I would have found a setup and then just stuck with it for the whole game. There wasn't like that much incentive for me to like switch it up because I'm just not a
I had a
person.
I had a hard time like the whole way through. Like I had a lot of battles I had to do over and over again. So it's funny how like I never really found that one thing, but it made me kind of enjoy it more because I'm like, oh, no, I have to use whatever.
Right,
so,
trying to switch it up. Yeah, for sure. Like, I think, like, and I probably had that for, like, maybe the first half of the game or however long, but once I found, like, the perfect mix for me, then it was just like, okay. And then it was like, I could just enjoy the rest of the game, which was, like, exploring the story and all that stuff, which was still, like, plenty enjoyable. So, I'm definitely going to give it a 7.5.
You said 7.5, yeah.
Yeah, so, because I think, like, it was still really fun, but just docking it for the fact that I'm not a, you know, like, tactics person, so that part loses it for me.
Okay, so heading over to graphics and atmosphere, I mean, there's not really much to say.
Except that, like, it looks perfect. Like,
it does.
It looks exactly
it
like
runs well.
Right. Like,
the
I thought Stick of Truth played really, really well.
Yeah.
And then when I played this, I was like, wow, this actually somehow looks better than Stick of Truth.
This looks good.
Even though, like, it like, there's no reason for it to look better. Like, you could easily make a game look like South Park level, like, animation on the PS2 probably, but like PS3 was like plenty,
for sure, absolutely,
plenty powerful.
Yeah,
and so now it's like on PS4, so you're like, it's not going to be much different.
I would go as far to say that you could put it, since my favorite game system of all time was very good at 2D. I would go as far as say you could do it on the Sega Saturn, and it would look pretty dang good. Because I mean, we've all seen the Saturn do 2D, which is excellent, and then 3D, which is not so good. So,
don't talk about it.
But yeah, it looks like South Park. I guess as part of the atmosphere, like the settings, perfect. Like I feel I'm not hardcore on South Park like I would be on Simpsons, where I'd be like, actually, the Quickie Mart's here. But it seems like everything is where it should be. Like the map's large. It's good.
The map looked like it didn't Stick of Truth, so I'm assuming that like they probably did enough.
And it's cool that
research.
They like could redo it again and like make it fresh. So I don't really think that there's really much to say. I think it looks really nice. I'm sitting here between a 7.5 and an 8, so let's do it again. 7.75 for me.
Yeah, I'll definitely give it an 8 for the look because it just had a nice polish to it. The UI is like great.
Yep.
Like because again, this just like Stick of Truth. There's a lot of the game that takes place in the menus when you're like checking out your powers or crafting or whatever, and the UI is just wonderful.
Speaking of that, let's segue just really quick, 30 seconds to. One of the good and bad things about playing games nowadays with internet and updates and stuff like that is, on the good, there will likely never be another Tomb Raider Angel of Darkness. And by that I mean Tomb Raider Angel of Darkness came out and it's like famous for being like a buggy mess. But a PS2 game came out and it came out. Right. What are you gonna do? Yep. The only way you could do it is like say Castlevania 64, right? Came out and people were like, "Whoa!"
Yeah,
so they literally re-released it as Castlevania Legacy of Darkness, which is essentially what nowadays that would be called Castlevania 64 Complete Edition. Like that's pretty much literally what it is. So it's a double-edged sword. Back then, companies had to make absolute sure that stuff was there and it was good to go. Yeah. And nowadays, companies can be like, whoops, our bad, here's a patch a couple weeks later, right? So I mentioned that because I was having a lot of trouble getting money for the game, and I saw on YouTube over and over again this glitch where all you had to do was like go to a place, you saved up like $100, which is kind of annoying.
I think it was like a similar move as to what you could do with
Saga Frontier. Yeah, where so you essentially get enough money, which on my bad, I went out and like earned it, which was like 30 minutes of work, so whatever. But then like you buy something and you sell it in a certain way, and you end up with like infinite money, right? Within a certain steps. And I tried it over and over again, and I'm like, man, I'm dumb, like because like the steps was like increase it to 100, decrease it to 0. Now you have more money, and I was like, this is not working. Yeah. And then checking through the YouTube comments, oh, this was patched.
Yeah.
Bro, you gotta patch the good stuff? Yeah. Like, really? Like, patch, like, the stuff that's all messed up.
Right, because the only thing that matters for is that one character.
Even something like, and I'm not gonna go too crazy in this patch thing, but, like, sometimes, I'm in a Madden league online, and we have fun, and we get competitive because we don't like to lose, and sometimes there'll be patches where, like, you play the next game, and you're like, whoa, running's different now.
Yeah.
Like, just imagine, like, playing a game and being like,
I'm used to this, and then all of a sudden it changes,
like,
because of something dumb.
Like, I don't know, like, Call of Duty, the knives now kill in 1 hit, and they used to kill in 2 hits. Like, I mean, that's not the case, but you know what I'm saying. So, it's just, like, it's crazy nowadays. Like, sometimes I get on, I'm like, whoa. Like, just today, someone in my Madden group was like, why is the game faster? And I was like, dude, I didn't touch any settings. Like, I'm at work. I can't do it. So anyway, like I said, patches, good sometimes, bad sometimes. I wanted to earn that 100th person. So sound. This is excellent. It's South Park. It's all the voices. They're good. They're great. I don't think that there's much, I can't remember if there's much, like, background music when you're going through town.
Yeah, I mean, there's some, like, for sure. Like,
they have the generic, like, superhero...
exactly.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But this is mostly about the voices,
but
and the voices are great.
But there is also, like, some, like... There is at least a couple, like... I think there's, like, at least... I feel like there's, like, a song in there somewhere, too. Like, people... Like Cartman or somebody singing something. I feel like that happens.
Maybe. I mean, that's definitely possible.
But again, like, it just goes along with the fact that they got all the people to do the...
Yeah, so it's great. I mean, there's not much to say. If you've seen South Park, it's like they did it.
Yep.
They didn't skimp out. They got everyone. They did it. It's like even the minor characters like have very unique, funny voices. Like you walk into some guy's house, it's like, "Whoa, kid!" And like they're so. I guess this is part of it. Like you can always like just walk around and just fart on everyone, and it's fun to just go to people, and they always have different stuff. Like
or you can hit them.
Cartman's mom might be like, "Oh," but like then like. Kyle's mom would be like, "Oi!" Kind of thing. It's super funny.
Yeah.
Like, there's just so much going on there. So, I'm looking at an 8 there. I guess the only reason I'm not giving it higher is I don't particularly remember any music, but, I mean...
Right, it's not memorable.
You don't really expect that,
Maybe I'm just, wishing that there was, like, a musical part, because South Park is, like, kind of, like... I mean, if you've seen South Park the movie, like the music is a big part of it, and it's good. Like these guys made a Broadway musical that like is like critically acclaimed. Like Book of Mormon is like amazing, and like the music in it's amazing. So like I think maybe I like wanted there to be a little bit of a couple songs in there. There was a couple songs in Stick of Truth I remember because like Jimmy is like the bard and so like he plays a couple songs and stuff. So yeah, maybe now that I'm thinking about it, like there wasn't a song, but I wanted there to be. So I might dock it a point for that because South Park, that's like a strength of South Park, and might as well have thrown one in. But yeah, I'd give it a 7.5 for the sound because the voices are great. But I would have loved if there was like a just a musical side quest or something where I could get into it or whatever. I will say the DLC involves there's this whole subplot of this is like a South Park joke like where they keep talking about Corey Haim, who is like the Corey Feldman's friend who like OD'd or killed himself like in the 80s. He like OD'd and like very much like the stereotypical like child actor, like had a huge success very very early and then got involved in like drugs and alcohol and like declined pretty quickly, and just like a lot of sad stories in that world, like River Phoenix and whatever. But like so Corey Haim, they keep talking about Corey Haim, they're gonna resurrect Corey Haim, and then when they do, it's like Michael Jackson, but like they keep calling him Corey Haim and like it's just Michael Jackson, and it's like because like Michael Jackson did like hang out with Corey Haim and Corey Feldman when they were kids, and like Macaulay Culkin. So like I guess there's this like whole sub like joke on South Park that like people keep referencing Corey Haim, but it's actually Michael Jackson. Like the character's just straight up Michael
I'll have to check out the DLC because I actually didn't at all.
And so it's pretty fun, and like the and Michael Jackson like kind of goes into some like musical kind of things a little bit. Like I will say it's mega hard, and like the final fight with Corey Haim, Michael Jackson, is like I must have tried it like 10 or 15 times. It was like so hard, even with my like OP like setup at that point. But yeah, so like that was pretty fun, and there was a lot of music in that. It was playing like these like sort of Michael Jackson songs, like you could tell it was like inspired by, but obviously they weren't going to get the the ability to use like Billie Jean or something. So it's all like very sort of whatever. So I like that a lot, but yeah.
Speaking of liking stuff, we're on the fun factor. I always keep this one short because I feel like we've been on it already, right? I had fun.
I mean, you can hear it in our voices. That's
I had fun.
Clearly, if we didn't like, it would be if it was Resident Evil 6.
I actually like.
You could tell.
Like how there's certain people out there that like, yeah, I really like good movies, but like I really like to talk about bad movies, kind of thing. Like,
for sure.
I if a game is bad and it's not just like boring bad,
right?
I think I have more fun time talking about it. Like, there's something about it. Like Resident Evil 6 made me like friggin' bang my head against the wall.
Right. But then it was fun
to talk about.
Right.
Anyway, so I had a lot of fun with this game.
Absolutely.
I mean, just it goes to show you, I did everything. Like there was nothing left for me to do.
Within reason.
Within reason, yeah. Like, I wasn't gonna get the last thing,
right.
but like I did everything. Like I had everything click. Like when do I do that in a game? Like never.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
I had a good time. I would. Oh, that's in the next part. I mean, top to bottom, I came home, and after I did all my normal work and stuff, I was like, time to play South Park.
Take care of your kids and family. Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah, just that boring stuff.
But like, there's sometimes I come home and like a lot of what I do now, because there's nothing just that's crash. Like super interesting to me. It's just crash or just watch Twitch or whatever, and I'm like, I'm really tired.
Soon
but even if I was
football and football highlights,
even if I was super tired, I would be like, I'm gonna play this. It got me playing. So
it's pretty, and like other than the couple of fights that are like extremely hard, it is a pretty chillax game.
Yeah.
Well, especially the exploring, you can kind of just
I had a very difficult time with the Jimmy quote unquote final boss, or I guess it would be second to third final boss. I had a really hard time with when you're in the stripper place, and then that one really big stripper's coming at you. I had a really hard time with that.
Yeah.
The problem with that one was it was a very long fight, so I would end up like losing at the end, and I was like,
very end.
10 minutes fight, you know.
That's always frustrating.
But like, But like
But
like
those are few. I mean, like you said,
fun games,
you just named 2, and you probably is a how many hours game.
Yeah,
and it's like
I mean, fun games can have frustrating parts,
Exactly.
or if not, they're too easy.
right.
It is what it is.
You'd be done in
It is what
half
it is.
the time.
So I'm gonna give this a heck of a score, an 8.75. I had a good time. I really, I can't give it any less. I had a really good time.
Yeah, I would give it an 8.5 for fun because it was fun. I had fun time, but like I will say that like because I'm a completionist, I did trying to get all the trophies was you could do it in one playthrough, but it was a little bit annoying.
I should mention when I say I did everything, I did not get the trophies because
there's a very specific one that's dumb where basically you had to have started the game a very specific way, and if you didn't, well then you just don't get the best.
And
trophy.
Parker started it after me.
Yes, and you had said that, and so I looked it up and was like, okay, cool, I'll start it that specific way. That way I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
And the cool thing, the one thing, like in Stick of Truth, because I was helping somebody platinum it, there was at least 3 or 4 things that like it might have even been more than that, but there was a decent number of things where you could miss them, and then when the game was over, you couldn't go back and get them. This game, they made sure that like other than the thing where you have to start it a specific way, as far as collecting, you could do that end game. You could not collect a single thing.
Yeah, that's
in the
true.
Game. You can ignore it all.
There's no area that was like unaccessible later.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and like that was one of the things that one of the reasons that I like enjoyed the like platinuming this game was that like once I realized I had to start a specific way. The other thing that was cool was that you could ignore every collectible, like actually like forcibly ignore it. That way it made it easier to find it at the end because you just were like, okay, now I'm looking for this one thing, and I know that I've already remembered there's like where 5 of them are from having seen them during the story. Like the Yowie that you have to collect or whatever. Like you would see it a bunch, but you could ignore it and you'd be able to get back to that room.
That is cool.
It was just nice to be able to then go through and get it all in one go. And just be like, oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and be done. Rather than like if you collected them throughout the story, you get to the end and you're like, oh, I have 14 out of 16.
Yeah, I mean, that did happen
to me. And then those last 2, you're like, I don't know where they are, and it takes forever.
Yeah.
Whereas like at least now when you collect them and that's all you're focusing on, you're like, you know which ones you didn't miss or whatever. So that I like that the way they did that a lot better in this one. But
so heading into the last factor, which is replayability. Here's how I look at replayability. A 10 would mean I already replayed it and I love doing so.
Right.
A 7 would mean like
Resident Evil Nemesis.
Yeah. There you go. Definitely is a 10 in replayability. I've done it enough. A 7 would mean like. I haven't, but I would quite enjoy doing so.
Right.
A 5 means I haven't, and I'm just on the fence. Like you'd have to pretty much convince me.
Exactly.
3 would be like I haven't, and I won't unless like I was showing a friend or something like that. And a 1 means it causes me physical pain to do so. So I haven't replayed it, but I would enjoy it in the future. The only pretend that life doesn't exist and like I would have just time to do it.
Right.
I would do it. So I'm not gonna take my schedule and have that hurt against this.
Right.
So if I was just like, oh, I have a lot of time, maybe Ash took the kids to visit her mom's for a week or whatever, right? And I have a lot of time, right? Like I would play it and I would enjoy it. So that's why I am sitting at a 7 there.
Yeah, that seems fair. I mean, I would definitely play through it again. Like with someone, like if somebody was like wanted to see it, because like the jokes are fun and I think I could enjoy it again, like storyline wise, but I don't know that I have any like. I think that's kind of like the downfall of like getting into a completionist game head that I have, where I like want to get everything, is that like once you do, then it's just like I don't really care about like, I don't need to revisit it, because, like, why would I revisit it? Like, starting over, like...
It's a good point. Once you did everything...
Right.
Yeah.
It's just, like, unless there was something that, like, doesn't seem like the kind of game where they're going to release something that's like, oh, cool, I'll try that again.
It's been out a while. I don't think so.
So, like, there's not going to be something where you're like, oh, neat, like, so... So in that regard, I'd probably give it a 5 because I would replay it like with someone, but on my own, like doesn't sound like a thing.
All right, so we have the official tallies in, folks. Da 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 da. So my score came up to something. I don't remember it because I already averaged it. And it averaged out to 7.92, which actually might be one of the higher ones.
Yeah,
I don't know if I ever
high.
reached an 8. I probably did at some point.
I'm sure.
And Parker's came out to a respectable 7.42, which I feel like almost every game we like comes out to a 7 point something.
Yes.
Which really goes to show you that our thing works great. Like, it does. Like, you enjoy it, it's a 7. You don't, it's a 4.
Right.
The end. One of these times we're going to get a game where we're going to talk about it, and, like, I'm not going to be able to avoid... Like, okay, I try to avoid doing games that are, like universally praised. Like, one time I was like, why don't we do Mario RPG? But it's like, I wouldn't give anything less than a 10.
Right.
Like, so it would be boring. It would be like, well, this is the best this is the best game ever made.
Yeah,
10.
The only
right?
thing you
it's
could
like,
do,
come
the
on.
only thing you could do, I mean, and you would do with the game like that would be to LP it and talk while you're LPing it.
Yeah.
Where you're just like, this part's awesome, this part's awesome. Because otherwise, why aren't you just playing it? Like, that's the thing. When you're talking about an amazing game, it's like, then why aren't you just playing it? Like, that's the thing. Like, whereas like this, it's like, well, I don't need to play it again. And so it's just like, I just want to talk about it, and it's like an averagely good game. Like, that's fine. And then you also want to talk about really bad games.
Maybe
like
that's why they're really bad, because I'll never play Resident Evil 6 again, but, like, whenever someone brings it up, I'm like, I remember. Now, that's the name of a game I haven't heard for a long time. So, yeah, maybe that's the reason. But maybe one of these times we'll, like, get a game where, like, it's not... I will say, for being, like, someone who likes a lot of, like, retro stuff, like, I'm not the kind of person that just goes to the same 3 games over and over again, which is nice. But, like, one of these times we're going to find one where I'm like, I was unbelievably blown away.
We do have to, I mean, despite the fact that it probably falls under the same sort of umbrella as Super Mario RPG, not to compare them, but just in the sense that you have it in a high regard, we do need to complete the Resident Evil, like, library, like, to review them.
4?
Like,
or just
and 4 is the one.
Oh, 4 is the one, yeah.
So, like, 4, like, it's kind of like, you have mentioned we should review it, and I haven't ever played it, so it seems like a no-brainer
That's
for
going
us to try it out.
That's going to be an interesting one, because I have a feeling that that's going to be one where, even though I'm still very familiar with it, I think replaying it again, like, I might...
Especially, isn't there, like,
not
HD remakes
yeah,
of it?
But I feel like I might not be as high on it. Like, I've found that, like...
Because it probably, like, did a lot of stuff that then people built off of.
Yeah.
I mean, the same way
3
that,
5
like,
years ago, I always put it in my
Right.
top 5, but now I find myself rarely doing that. I mean, it's still probably top 20.
Right.
You know, but it's still like...
But it's
I
like
don't know.
it's like the thing where it's like old movies or whatever, like Citizen Kane, like, did things that no other movie did, but if you watch it now, you'd be like, this is terrible. But if you watch it at the time, you're like, this is groundbreaking. But, like, now it's like, this is boring. Like, because, like, they did stuff, and, like, so Resident Evil 4, I think a lot of game gameplay mechanics came out of that game that people have built on and done better.
You know,
whatever.
we actually ended this one a couple minutes earlier than we normally do, so I'm gonna say this. It's you know, when people have top 10 lists and they put something like top 10 games of all time. Now, I want to be clear that when you say top 10 of all time, you mean best, right? You don't mean most influential, you don't mean that led to stuff. And when someone puts, like, Pac-Man or Space Invaders on it, it's like, no, get out of here. Like most influential, put Space Invaders number 1, put Pac-Man number 2.
Right.
That's fine, right? That's fine, and that's great. But, like, Pac-Man's not one of the best games of all time. Miss Pac-Man's better already. Like, literally 2 years later, they brought out a better game, which is like, it's better.
And then
better.
And
it
then
has
if
more
you really
stuff.
like Pac-Man to play, like, the championship thing, you would really like that. Like, that's fun. But no one's gonna put Championship Edition Pac-Man or whatever it's called on their top 10 list of all time.
Pac-Man,
no one's gonna
Pac-Man Championship Edition 2 or
yeah,
Pac-Man
whatever
2,
it's called.
Yeah,
no one's gonna put that on a top 10 of all time list, but they should, because if you're looking at Pac-Man, you're like Pac-Man versus Miss Pac. Well, Miss Pac-Man's better. Miss Pac-Man versus this. Well, that's better. You know, you keep going down the line.
And I'm not saying that every reversion's better. Like,
right.
Junior Pac-Man's not better than Miss
Right.
Pac-Man. Super Pac-Man's not better than Miss Pac-Man.
Right, but there's better versions. So it's like you either put the best version because you really like Pac-Man, or you just leave it off the list.
But that being said, obviously not every new game that's like built off it. Like Resident Evil 4, a lot of stuff was like stolen or used off it. Those games aren't necessarily better.
Right.
But it's very... I don't know if I've ever really thought about this before this way, but it's very unique for there to be something where it's like, okay, this is the game that did this first, or one of the first that mastered it,
the best.
And it's the best. Like for instance, in movies like Godfather.
Right.
Godfather's 40 years old, but like I will not cringe at all if I ever see anyone that's like, nope, it's number one on the list. I'd be like, okay, right, sense. Like, dude, it's a 3 and like a half-hour movie, and like I've watched it like 5 times. Like that's crazy for me, you know. So like something like that, or like in video games, like Metal Gear Solid is like. That's the first to do that, and it's still friggin' excellent. I'd rather play MGS over, like, probably 2, 3, and 4. So it's very it's like, there's, like, this certain, like, Mario RPG is, like, the first to, like, really, like, do this really simplistic style RPG kind of thing, but also put it with platforming, and, like, many games have done it since then, but it's, like, that's the one, boy. If you put that number 1 on your list, I'm not going to be like, come on.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, like, I couldn't imagine putting, like... What's the best, what's the best shooter of, like, all time? Like, Call of Duty 1. It's like, come on. I would even go as far to say, like, as excellent of a game as it if you were, like, Half-Life 1. I'd be like, really?
Right.
Like, because I've played that several times. Like, you mean not? Like, I get it, because Half-Life 1 is excellent, and I've played it several times, but it's like... Did you mean Half-Life 2? Did you mean whatever? Or, like, you know, something like that. Like, did you mean System Shock 2? You know, did you mean Bioshock? Did you mean any of that? It's like, no, Half-Life, because it's the first one to do it. It's like, but Half-Life 2 is, like, better.
Easily better. Half-Life 1's great. Half-Life 2 is just better. It just is what it is. It is, like, kind of that thing.
So that's interesting that there's that subcategory where it's just like oh, like, here's one, like... I don't like, although I do want to eventually LP it, because I feel like this would be, like, out of all the games I've beaten and not beaten in my life, Legend of Zelda 1 is one that I've never even tried. Because, frankly, I don't like it. And it was the first to do something, extremely well. It's good.
Right.
Now, I don't think, should it be number 1 on a list? No, because Link to the Past did it a billion trillion times better, right? But that's one of those games that's like on the top of my list where it's like, I really ought to beat this once.
Right.
And that's why eventually I do want to just learn it and just LP it and get it done with. Like, I don't particularly find, like, I like watching speedruns of it, but I don't particularly find it like oh, let's just one. You know, whatever. I gotta, just whatever. Like, it's like rather small and rather hard and whatever. That's what she said, but,
nice.
But yeah, we got 102 in. I made it almost all. But yeah, it's just one of those interesting things as far as that's concerned. So I think I'm gonna call it here.
Sounds good.
Thank you guys for I almost said watching. Imagine them staring
just
at their
stare at the still photo. I will say that we splice in a very specific image. At any point, you never know what it is.
God.
But if you see it and you send a screenshot in, we will give you nothing because it doesn't exist. We didn't do it. No. Or did we?
Did we?
And we will give you a prize.
One of the 43 episodes has.
We only put it in one episode. Yep, only in one single episode.
I will say that,
but we might not have done it yet. That's the other thing. We will have put it in when all's said and done, and we're at episode 650. There will be one.
You'll never stop CI cast. I actually some days, like when I don't feel like listening to sports talk radio when I'm at the store early, I like put on one of these, and they're actually very decent for like having it on the background and like doing work or whatever. Right. So you're not watching.
I hope,
but you're probably Please don't watch.
What if you're only watching it and you have it on mute? That person, I want to meet that person. I want to meet that person.
Well, They have no idea what you just said. They have no idea that you want.
I'll never meet that person
because they haven't muted. I'm sorry.
Put it. Can we close caption this?
Can you do? Wait. Do I have to select that specially?
I think it automatically figures it out.
I actually have
AI.
to. I have to go back and see if I can do it to a random one. Like when we're talking over each other and stuff. Like what is it even going to come up with? Yeah, I can't even imagine. All right. Hey, thank you guys for listening.
Yes.
See you next time.